Here are the biggest asset protection mistakes people make that can cost them everything. We have clients tell us all the time, just like the guy who called us this morning. He said, I work hard for what I have, my business, my savings, my investments, and my home. And these are the things that I've built up over a lifetime. And I know that one simple mistake, one legal loophole can wipe them all out. And that's why I'm calling you, because I want to protect it. I'm the business guy, the CEO of the Lawyers Limited Law Firm and Asset Protection Planners. And today, I'm going to show you the biggest asset protection mistakes that people make. And I'll share my experience over 34 years of being in the asset protection industry and why proper asset protection is critical to safeguard your wealth. And before we dive in, subscribe if you haven't. Let's get started. Here are the 10 most common asset protection mistakes people make. Number one, waiting until it's too late. Many people only think about asset protection after they're facing the lawsuit or legal trouble. And by then, courts can deem transfers fraudulent, making protection efforts less effective. A divorce, for example, usually includes a financial restraining order, which ties our hands from setting up asset protection. So start before trouble arises. Number two, thinking insurance is enough. Now, liability insurance is important, but it has its limits and exclusions. Insurance companies exist to make a profit, not necessarily to pay claims. And if there's a way for them to get out of paying, they will. More importantly, you can always get sued for more than your insurance covers, way more. A strong asset protection strategy layers protection beyond just insurance. Asset protection mistake number three, owning assets in your own name. If you own valuable assets in your personal name, they're easy targets for a lawsuit. So instead, use LLCs, trusts, and other legal entities to hold assets and create legal separation between you and the asset that can be taken away. Number four, using revocable living trusts for asset protection. A revocable living trust is great for estate planning, but offers zero lawsuit protection. If you can revoke it or change it, then so can the judge. In other words, if you can change the beneficiary, a judge can force you to change the beneficiary of your living trust to your opponent. And it's not just being irrevocable that protects you. It needs to be set up in a jurisdiction that recognizes asset protection trusts. It needs a true independent third-party trustee. So instead of, or in addition to, a revocable living trust, consider an irrevocable trust like a Cook Islands trust for real protection, because that's the strongest protection in the world. Number five, relying on domestic asset protection trusts, or DAPTs. Now, some U.S. states offer domestic asset protection trusts, like Nevada and South Dakota, but they have major weaknesses because courts in other states can ignore them. Or even if you live in that state, we've seen judges penetrate them. And I can't tell you how many Californians, for example, have lost everything they had in Nevada trusts thinking they were protected. Offshore trusts, like the Cook Islands Trust, offers much stronger legal protection because the U.S. courts don't have jurisdiction over our offshore trustee law firm like they do a domestic trustee. Number six, using a single member LLC or SMLLC. Now, single member LLCs are easier to pierce in court, especially in states like California and Florida. A multi-member LLC, or one based in Nevis or Wyoming, offers stronger protection. Even if you have an LLC set up in a single member LLC charging order state, we've seen courts like Florida, for example, require 2 members if you live in that state. So before you can enjoy the asset protection of an LLC, make sure that you get good guidance on how they work. Number seven, mixing personal and business finances. Commingling business and personal financing can cause courts to pierce the corporate veil, making you personally liable for business debts. For example, if you pay your personal electrical bill at your home with your business account, or you pay your business electrical bill with your personal accounts, that's called commingling, and it can render your corporation's or LLC's protection invalid. So keep separate bank accounts and maintain the corporate formalities. Number eight, not protecting your home. Many assume their home is automatically protected. While some states offer homestead protection and exemptions, they often have caps and limits. So placing your home in a land trust with an LLC as the trustee can give you privacy of ownership and make it harder for contingency fee attorneys to find out where you live. And then in addition to that, we place equity stripping liens or mortgages against your property. So in the public records, it looks like your property is mortgaged to the hilt and there's no equity to take. And for rental properties, we make the LLC the beneficiary of the land trust. So you have the land trust for privacy and the LLC for protection. Number 9, underestimating the power of offshore strategies. Now, many people fear offshore trusts simply because they're unfamiliar or they sound complicated. But offshore asset protection, like a Cook Islands trust, combined with a Swiss bank account, can make it nearly impossible for creditors to seize assets. Now, our firm has set up more Cook Islands trusts than anybody in the world because they simply work. They simply protect assets, and we've never had a client lose money in a lawsuit with the money that's been in a Cook Islands trust that we've established. Number 10, not keeping your plans updated. Now, asset protection is not just a set it and forget it thing. Laws change, your wealth grows, and new risks arise. So regularly update your plan with an experienced asset protection attorney, such as those on our staff. So here's why asset protection matters. Lawsuits are skyrocketing. In the US alone, over 40 million lawsuits are filed every year. Now get this, that's 153,000 lawsuits filed per workday. Yes, 153,000 lawsuits filed every workday in the U.S. And according to a study by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, businesses in America have a 36% chance of being sued in a given year. And it's not just the ultra wealthy. Small business owners, doctors, real estate investors, and even regular homeowners are getting targeted. One mistake, one car accident, a business deal gone wrong, even a frivolous claim can cost you everything. I mean, somebody sees that you have deep pockets, guess what? It's a lot easier to take it away from you than it is for them to earn it on their own. And if your assets aren't properly protected, they're ripe for the taking. So that's where asset protection comes in, but the key is doing it right. So let's talk about the importance of professional guidance. Now, some people think they can just set up an LLC or create a trust, move money around and call it a day. But asset protection isn't something that you should handle without expertise. The law is complex, and small mistakes can lead to big consequences. Now, think about it. When a plaintiff's attorney is attacking your asset protection structure, they will be looking for loopholes in it, technicalities they can capitalize on to get your money. If your plan isn't set up correctly, they'll exploit the weaknesses, challenge your documentation, and find ways to pierce your protection. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't try to perform a brain surgery on yourself, right? And you wouldn't trust your neighbor Barney, who's the plumber, to do it either. You want a professional. Asset protection is really no different. I mean, this is your entire net worth we're talking about here. With 34 years of experience and the biggest asset protection firm in the country, we know where the landmines are and how to keep your assets airtight. So here's some more common misconceptions about asset protection. Number 1, I'll just put everything in my spouse's name. I've seen people try this thinking it's a quick fix. The problem? Courts see right through it. In divorce, lawsuits, or bankruptcy, simply putting assets in a spouse's name doesn't protect them. If there's intent to hinder creditors, courts will reverse the transfers and seize the assets anyway. I've seen so many clients think they can just transfer assets to a spouse, parent, sibling, or whoever, and that will keep their assets out of harm's way. No, that is the picture-perfect definition of fraudulent conveyance, and that really compounds the problem, and here's why. Not only does it not protect assets, it brings the person that you transfer the assets to that tried to help you into the lawsuit who was trying to help you. That's right. Now your opponent not only sues you, but sues your mother who is trying to help you. The turkey tastes a little bit different on Thanksgiving when you've sucked mama into your lawsuit. So don't do that. Don't put your assets in your spouse's name if you ever want to experience a moment of passion again for the next 18 months. Pulling your spouse into the lawsuit because you tried to take shortcuts on your asset protection is highly inadvisable. Real protection requires strategic legal structures that hold up under scrutiny. A properly designed Cook Islands Trust, for example, does exactly that, layering protection in a way that works under the toughest legal challenge. Even if a judge points his bony finger at you for doing it, your money's still protected. Bonus mistake number 2, I'm not that rich. Many people think asset protection is just for the ultra wealthy. Not true. Even if you just have a home, rental properties, or a savings account, those assets can be taken in a lawsuit. In fact, 80% of lawsuits target small business owners and middle-class individuals. If you have anything to lose, you need protection. So we have different levels of protection for different levels of wealth. And we generally say $500,000 or more, or a bare minimum of $250,000 for an offshore trust. But there are other options available for lower levels of wealth. Bonus mistake number 3, neglecting the legal fine print. Now, setting up a trust or an LLC isn't enough. You have to do it correctly. One mistake in paperwork and the whole structure falls apart. Many people fail to follow state and federal regulations, making their plans completely useless when challenged in court. Not only do you need a company, you need a properly drafted operating agreement with asset protection provisions if you want to have a prayer of the LLC offering any kind of protection. Okay, now we've covered the 10 most common asset protection mistakes and 3 bonus mistakes. So here are the consequences of asset protection mistakes. Number 1, unintended tax implications. The IRS isn't very forgiving when it comes to mistakes. Misclassify your trust, and you could end up paying double taxes or even face penalties. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. So make sure you have professional guidance. Number 2, legal challenges and vulnerability. If your asset protection plan isn't airtight, creditors can pierce the veil and take everything. A poorly structured LLC or trust won't hold up under scrutiny. Just because some trusts provide asset protection doesn't mean that all trusts provide asset protection. In fact, like we said, the most common type of trust, a living trust, provides little to no asset protection at all. And if you want asset protection, you need an asset protection trust. It needs to be set up in a jurisdiction that has asset protection law, like we said. It needs to have an independent trustee, and it needs to be drafted properly, as this couple we spoke to recently found out the hard way. Number 3, eroding family wealth. Without the proper asset protection, assets that you work so hard to build can disappear overnight, leaving your family with nothing. So that's why you need asset protection. In fact, many of the homeless people that you see living on the street, drinking wine out of a paper bag and living under a bridge, well, they were victims of lawsuits that took everything, their home, their cars, their bank accounts, everything. So that's why you need real asset protection and a strategy that's proven to work. I just listened to a call the other day where a guy was facing a divorce from an alcoholic, drug-addicted wife. And we set up a proper asset protection plan, but it wasn't his fault. He didn't know when they got married this is going to be the case. But now they're getting a divorce, and especially with divorce, you need to get that set up before the divorce is filed, because once it's filed, it's too late. So it's time to take action immediately before the problem arises. So here's some practical advice and recommendations and tips for safeguarding your assets. Number 1, seek expert counsel. If you're serious about protecting your assets, working with an experienced professional is what you need to do. We've been doing this for nearly 30 years with the Cook Islands Trusts, and our firm, like I said, has set up more of them than anybody in the world. So we know what works. Number 2, develop a comprehensive plan. Asset protection isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. It needs to be tailored to your specific needs, risk level, and goals. We design bulletproof structures that give you control until you need protection. Number 3, regularly review and update. Laws change, your assets change, and your plan should evolve too. Now, there are annual filing fees to cover, and we help our clients stay protected for the long haul. Okay, taking control of your financial future. The power of knowledge. Now that you know the risks of improper asset protection and the mistakes people make, it's time to take action. Educate yourself, but more importantly, work with experts who know how to keep you safe. And finally, take action. Don't sit around head scratching. You need to actually take action, just like you need to put on your seatbelt in a car before you get in a car wreck, not scratch your head thinking about it. Building a secure foundation. Now, the right asset protection plan isn't just a safety net. It's a strategic tool set for wealth preservation and growth. So if you're ready to truly protect your wealth, go to assetprotectionplanners.com or give us a call today. What we'll do is we'll design a custom asset protection plan that fits your needs. If you're serious and not just curious, give us a call. And be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos on protecting your wealth, and we'll see you next time.